Customizing your workspace in CC and CS6. Welcome to this section, where we'll talk about how you can adjust Photoshop specifically for your needs. I'll teach you how to customize your workspace and how to set it up optimally for the rest of the course. First, we'll talk about the color of the interface. I'm using the darkest one for the CC version and the lightest one for CS6, which we have opened here. We'll use this older version because everything still applies, and near the end we'll switch to Photoshop CC so you can check out a fantastic improvement. So let's answer the first question. How can you change the color of your interface? We can do that by going to Edit, Preferences, Interface. If you're on a Mac, you can use Command K for that. Here we have 4 choices, 2 dark ones and 2 light ones. Those who are familiar with CS5 will surely be more drawn to the first or second option, but I have to say the darkest one is my favourite. Moving on, we'll sort our panels because this is quite important. To get started, we first have to check out the workspaces Photoshop has built in. To check those out, simply go to the top right and click on this drop-down. As you can see, Photoshop has some nice presets depending on what you want to do. We have Essentials, 3D, Motion, Painting, Photography, Typography, and a few other controls. This means that you can select one of these and be done with your customization. Thing is though, it's best you know how to adjust things so you can get a perfect fit for your work. So let's take it step by step. First, I'll choose Essentials, and you immediately see new panels. Now, you may not see the exact same thing in your Photoshop version, but don't worry, everything I'm about to tell you still applies. I'm also going to hit Reset Essentials, just to make sure we're starting from step 1. Okay, great. First, let's make sure we have all our tools on the left side in one column. To do that, go to the top left and hit on this very small icon. I'll toggle it so you can see the difference. Keeping it in one column is better because you see more of the canvas. I know it's not a big difference, but every bit helps. If you click and hold, you can actually detach this panel. This applies to absolutely every panel in Photoshop, and it's quite interesting because you get to place them literally wherever you want. Right now, it's currently floating around, but I can drag it and dock it on the right side of my screen. When I hover over this region, do you see this line appearing? This means we can dock it there. So if we let go of our left mouse click, this panel will now be attached to this section. Don't like it there? Detach it and move it more to the right. Simple enough. Let's put it back though. Drag it out of that place and move it to the left side of the screen. While you can do all sorts of arrangements, going with the basics is the right way to go, at least for starters. On the right side, we have all sorts of panels opened and lined up. We have 3 main panels, but notice they have tabs too. So at the top, I can switch between colours and swatches by simply clicking on the inactive tab. I can also resize it so I can see more of it. If you go near the bottom, you'll see your cursor will change. Take your time to find it. This makes it easy to allocate more space to your important panels. In this case, I don't use swatches at all, so let me close it. How do I do that? Well, each panel has a very tiny icon in the top right. If you click it, you'll see a huge menu appear. Don't be scared, simply look for Close. Press it and the whole thing goes away. So now, we're left with colour. If we don't like its positioning, we can grab it and drag it out of there. As you can see, once I remove it from the right side, the other panel expands. Now with this detached tab, we can place it absolutely wherever we want it. We can even leave it floating around, but I highly discourage you to do that. Everything should be docked, that's my suggestion. Here I'll close it like I did with the swatches panel. So look for this small icon and click it. Press close and it will go away. Now we have 3 other panels to close, and I'm getting tired, so let's close them all at once. Click on the small icon and press on the Close tab group. And there you go, all of them went away. Now we have this huge layers panel, and I actually like to keep it like that because I work with a lot of layers. More about that later. I also want to open up a few other panels, but I want to keep my layers panel as is. To do that, I'll go to Window, Character, and you'll see I have another small section to the left of my layers panel where a new button has appeared. Basically, each button here holds a panel, but unless you click it, they're all collapsed. Same rules apply here too. You can detach and you can reattach. You can expand this area by dragging it to the left, but make sure you have this mouse cursor first. This is helpful in case you can't recognize the panels based on their icon alone. As you can see, if we expand it, we get to read their names, which is quite helpful for starters. Finally, we can also expand our Layers panel, and this is helpful if we have very long names. Here, this is not the case, but let me write something so that you can see what I mean. So if you want to read the whole thing, you might want to expand it like this. One thing before we end is that although you can open a lot of panels and make them fairly big, the problem is your canvas area will shrink. Keep in mind that's the road we're driving on, that's the star, and that deserves your full attention. All these panels are here for supporting purposes, so make sure you keep them fairly small so they won't eat up your canvas space. This applies even though you may have a big monitor. Finally, say we want to save our workspace. Maybe there's another person that uses Photoshop for different reasons and you don't want them messing things up. Well, it's simple. We can go to the top right and hit New Workspace. A window will appear asking you what name this workspace should have. I'll call it Testing. Now, if someone messes everything up, expanding things, closing panels, opening others, we can simply go to Reset Testing and we can revert back to our settings. So now when there's kids over and they want to go to town, you can let them do their thing without worries. Of course, you can delete a workspace, but first you have to switch over to a new one. Now with the other workspace selected, you can go to Delete Workspace and this window will appear. Select Testing from the drop-down and you're golden. That's how you can customize your workspace in Photoshop. Now let's jump into Photoshop CC and take a look at one particular upgrade that allows you to further customize your working experience. You can now have a toolbar custom made with only the tools you use. I think this is a major breakthrough, and it's especially useful for beginner Photoshop users who are often overwhelmed by the sheer amount of tools this panel contains. So let's start editing it. The first step is to have a document opened. Now go to the bottom left of the toolbar and click and hold on this 3 dots icon. Move to the right and you'll get this new window. From here we can do all sorts of amazing things. Let's take it one by one. On the left side you'll see you have all the tools in the toolbar, and on the right side, where it says Extra Tools, you'll see all the inactive tools. So by removing some tools it doesn't mean you're deleting them, you're just setting them as inactive. First, we have a clean slate by pressing on the Clear Tools button on the right side. If we now check the toolbar, you'll see it's just about empty, and on the other hand, the Extra Tools panel is full. Now we can start populating our toolbar with whatever we work with on a regular basis. Before you do that, just in case you've messed things up and you want to go back to the original toolbar, just hit the Restore Defaults button. Easy and stress-free. Okay, let's clear it again and I'll do this. I'll add the Move tool because that's implicit. It works by dragging and dropping, so it's really easy to do. I want the Artboard tool too, but I don't want it combined with the Move tool, so I'll move it underneath. Regarding the Marquee tool, I only want the first 2, so I'll add one, and for the other, when I drag it, I won't release outside the panel. Instead, I'll look for the blue line to be inside the rectangular Marquee tool. Notice the difference? This means the second marquee will be nested or hidden underneath the other one. And we can continue in this fashion with all of them. One important thing is that if you want an entire group of tools, say the one that has the brush tool with all the other ones, you don't have to drag them one by one. If you go to the edge of the group, you'll see the blue line encompasses the entire list, so this means you can drag them all with one step. You can also reorder their position, whether it's like this where you swap their positions or inside a group. Again, take the brush panel for example. We can move the pencil tool above the brush, so that will be the first thing that's active when we hit the B key. Absolutely superb. And you can play with all these options until you get the perfect toolbar for you. Then you can just save the preset. Just hit the button on the right, choose a name, and you're done. And if you can save a preset, you can surely load one. This means it's super easy to swap between a toolbar you created for working on web design projects and one you made for drawing. The extension is .tbr, just in case you want to load one from the web. And if you want to load it fast, you can just drag and drop it in Photoshop and it'll work just like that. You'll notice the Move tool and the Artboard tool have the same hotkey, V. By default, the Move tool will be selected, but if you want to avoid that issue, you can assign a different hotkey and clicking in this region. Now you can assign a new key for it. I'll leave that as it is, as I've yet to decide. If we press Done, you'll notice our toolbar is much more compact. But say you wanted to access an inactive tool, so a tool you've just removed. How would you do it? Well, if we click and hold on those 3 dots, you'll see the entire list of tools appears. An interesting feature I suggest you leave on is this Disable Shortcuts for Hidden Toolbar Extras. So say we want to use the Gradient tool and the Paint Bucket tool, right? We have them both on the left side, and then 3D Material Drop tool remains inactive on the right side. Well, since all 3 have the hotkey G, if you'd press Shift plus G, you'd cycle through all 3 of them. But with that option checked, you'll now only cycle between the 2 that are set as active. Cool stuff. You can also disable these 4 icons at the bottom of the toolbar's panel. So changing the screen mode can be turned off, but please remember that if you disabled the hotkeys for inactive tools, you won't be able to get into full screen mode. That's something to keep in mind. The Quick Mask mode can be turned off as well. We can even turn off the foreground and background colours, though I'd advise against that. It's interesting that you can even disable this Edit Toolbar icon. If you press Done, you'll now see it's not there anymore. But don't panic, you can go to Edit, Toolbar, and you'll gain access to it. What's nice is that all these settings can be saved into your workspace, so go to the top right and hit New Workspace. From the new pop-up dialog, you'll see you can now check Toolbar, and that's going to save it, so it's great stuff. And that's it. That's how you can customize your workspace for Photoshop for it to fit your needs. Plus, this toolbar editing option gives you even more freedom, so it's something I advise you to remember later down the road. Okay, let's continue.